Hi, everybody. It's Jessica Stone at Stansberry Research, and I've got a panel discussion here to talk about what the vice presidential pick for the Biden campaign and Kamala Harris is going to mean to the markets for you. We're bringing in Enrique Abeyta of Empire Financial Research, who's been working on what stocks stand to benefit and or lose out depending on the presidential election results. And then we also have our resident healthcare expert, Tom Carroll, to talk about how the Trump campaign may potentially respond to a Kamala Harris pick, as well as what healthcare is going to factor into the upcoming election. So first question to you, Enrique. What do you think of this pick? How much of the markets really care about this, given that we're already seeing a warming to Biden on Wall Street?
Yeah, look, I think it was a smart strategic pick. If you look back 10 years ago, she had a pretty balanced track record, which I think will appeal to the middle.
My view is that she's a terrible choice. I think that she is far more left than the market thinks.
Do you see the market react with a groundswell of support that comes from for a candidate that's maybe more millennial friendly? Because that's certainly what this ticket is going to try to do.
Frankly, in general, I don't think presidential elections or even congressional elections really play that big of a role on what happens in the stock market. But here's the thing I'll tell you is that we just injected $3 trillion of stimulus. And so ask yourself, and we are, as I'm well on record, I'm very constructive on what's happening with COVID, and that will be constructive for the economy, et cetera. But ask yourself, what will be the amount of stimulus that will be injected if the Democrats win the presidency and win the Senate? Start with a $5 trillion number, begin thinking double digits. I mean, I think there literally is no limit. Now, I'm not saying that ends
Gold's
well.
gonna love that, man.
Yeah, but so I think a lot more of this has to do, it's less about Biden, it's less about Kamala Harris, and it's more about the Democrats and Paul Krugman and unlimited MMT and what are the both short-term and intermediate to long-term ramifications of that. That is the big thing that I think is going to sway the markets eventually.
I was going to say, I agree with that. And if you look back over time, markets have done better when there's been less uncertainty, right? When a president tends to stay, when an incumbent stays in office, the markets do better. When there's a change, there's more uncertainty, the markets don't do as well.
I want to have you take a listen to what President Trump said just minutes after the announcement.
She's very big into raising taxes. She's against fracking. Fracking's a big deal. She's in favor of socialized medicine.
Tom, to you, how much is riding in the healthcare sector on the results of this election?
From a Biden win perspective, he's obviously going to support the Affordable Care Act. If you inject the Kamala Harris views about Medicare for all, I think there's that much more uncertainty. So I think that the healthcare companies could, I think there might be some selling. I think people might just say, I'm going to take profits off of healthcare stocks. I'm not going to look at that direction just yet. And I want to get more details. I mean, that's exactly what happened back in the 2009, 2010 period of time. But should the details look more like the strengthened Affordable Care Act, that honestly is quite a good system relative to public-private partnerships. And I think you'd see the managed care companies do fairly well. United Healthcare, Anthem, Cigna, and the like.
One thing we know for sure, this is likely to be very much impacted by whether people vote in person or by mail ballot. There's likely to be more uncertainty and volatility around the election results. Based on what you guys remember from the Hanging Chad era, could you talk a little bit about how much the markets respond to the lack of certainty with election results?
If it's a very close election, the markets will be surprised. If it is a not close election, but then contested by Trump, the markets will not be surprised at all. You understand
I see
the
what
difference?
you mean.
So,
Yeah.
And a contested in an election that's quite close is a different thing. But then, riddle me this, is that good or bad for the markets? Because one is the, Trump wins, which is the market-friendly candidate that only wants to do an incremental $1 trillion of stimulus. The other one is Biden wins, which is the market unfriendly candidate that wants to do $10 trillion of stimulus. heads we win, heads we win.
I don't think a contested election really has much to do with anything longer term. I think if anything, it's probably expected at this point, and we create some near-term trading opportunities.
Enrique, how about you? Do you have a list that you're working on that's ready to go?
I'm going to tell you what ground zero for the melt-up is going to be. It's going to be EV, AV, electric vehicles, autonomous vehicles. And I think that we're lining up for a 99 type melt up, except on steroids, 10 trillion of stimulus. And, just think about the history of the Democrats supporting, climate change legislation and investment in solar. Add in Robinhood, add in SPACs, etc. I think we're going to see the globe.com in enterprise value 10 times over.
Tom, how about you? What are you talked a little bit about general areas where you want to be ready to jump in. You obviously are the editor of Cannabis Capitalist. Are there some opportunities there depending on the results of the election?
Yeah, we're finally getting to the point where I think some of these cannabis stocks are going to be just absolutely win-wins across the board. I think at the end of the day, certainly if we see a Biden presidency, these cannabis stocks just go absolutely nuts. And I also think if we see a Trump re-election, he would relish the history of being the president that legalized cannabis. In fact, I still have a belief that he does it before the election. I mean, he's got 84 days left to go, but I think that would be a great weapon that he could use to really pull a lot more voters in. And I'm putting out a digest this week that looks both at a Trump victory as well as a Biden victory, and lays out some places to be. Jessica, as you said, this is going to be a healthcare election again, and I fully believe that. So that whole space is going to be ripe for investment, but it's very complicated, and there's a lot of money to make.
Get some cash on hand and ready to buy no matter what, because there's going to be some opportunities ahead. Our thanks to you both for your insights. And if you want to see much more content just like this, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also be directly connected, I should say, to both of these gentlemen's publications if you hover on the screen with the subscribe icon. And we also recommend that you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.